Hello everybody, this is A Shadowbox, and welcome to the Susquehanna Valley map here in Farming Simulator 19. I have a friend from rural New York, and he says that it is pronounced Susquehanna. So I'm gonna try my best to pronounce it that way, but if I say Susquehanna, I mean Susquehanna. Supposedly you're supposed to really accent that que sound, Susquehanna. Anyway, few changes since you guys have been here last. As you can see, I have earned a lot of money off camera, and I will tell you why I earned it off camera is because it was very tedious. If we look in the contracts, you can see that fertilizing contracts, as long as you're not getting like a tiny field or something, are pretty lucrative. And we have the equipment to do fertilizing contracts on our own, even on large fields, because we can just load up our gooseneck here with our tractor and fertilizer spreader and drive around the map doing fertilizer contracts. So that's what I did, and I had Sarah, Sam, and Mark do like some sewing contracts where they borrowed equipment on the side. And I did like 12 or 15 fertilizer contracts in the time it took them to do one or two sewing contracts each. And that's how we got our money. But don't worry, it's all going to go away by pretty quickly in this episode because with the new summer season, I think it's time to expand our farm because this grass looks fresh and ready to be mowed. So, I would like to mow it. What we're going to do, first of all, we're going to buy that field. And second of all, we are expecting a delivery from the store of grass implements for our farm. So if I just run over here, believe as we're doing that, our stuff should be delivered right here for a delivery fee. First, though, we need to actually purchase the land. And that's going to be field 80. Look at all that grass. I'm thinking we're going to harvest the grass off that to turn it into silage, and then we're going to plow it all up and turn it into a big alfalfa field because of just like how weirdly shaped it is. And then once we eventually buy 79 and 78, this can just be like our entire source of hay and silage probably for our whole farm. So I think that's what we're going to go ahead and do, definitely at least in the short term. So there we go. We are now the proud owners of land plot 80. And the first thing that we're going to need to put on it, I think we're going to go with a doubled set of small bunkers. Just because this seems like there's a lot of grass here. And I forget that bunkers are on a grid, so I wanted to line it up with that fence, but I just can't. So I think the best place for this, maybe in here, kind of? Like, I don't want it to be too off level from the rest of everything. So if we put our bunker here, then we can put our storage sheds here. No, that's kind of in the way. I'd rather just have like a corner dedicated to everything. Well, I originally wanted to place the bunker and then build our sheds. Because if I ran out of money with the landscaping, doing the bunker, at least we'd have the grass. Sorry, just reevaluating my priorities on the fly here. Okay, so first, we'll go ahead and get our grass equipment delivered. So if we go to... Well, we're going to need a windrower. We're going to get this windrower here, the Coon, and we're getting everything new since we're actually getting them delivered from the shop. Mowers, we're going to get these mowers from the Alpine pack. They're not, American brand, or maybe you don't typically see Pottinger mowers in America, but, you know what? They're in the game and they fit our needs, both with horsepower and working width. And you see that's an 8.1 working width, and the windrower we got 8.5, so almost identical. After that, we're going to need a loading wagon. We're just going to get the smallest loading wagon, I think. Or actually, maybe we splurge and get the one that's a little bit bigger. Yeah, let's do that. Alright, and then we're going to need some leveling equipment to take care of that chaff, or not chaff, that grass in the bunker. So it leaves us with $74,000 for landscaping and purchasing. Alright guys, welcome to our first farmstead. I kind of messed up the edge of this field a little bit. We'll fix it once we actually own it. Oh, that's not as smooth as I thought it was either. But that's okay. So, the idea that I had behind setting up this yard was that it still looks rough. Like it's still new, the gravel's new, the mud's not entirely covered up yet. And, oh, this is steeper than I thought it was going to be as well. We'll have to see how it plays. I might have to spread that ramp out more. We got like this rock shelf here, because this is going to be just like a cliff face. I might download some fences to put in here, and then we can have a fence lining that so we don't drive off of it. This ramp here seems a lot more manageable. Still not perfect, but better. But I think that's good enough for now. I want to get to mowing, so let's take care of that. This extra shed here is actually storage for big bags. If we open the door, these, we can just drop big bags in the loading zone and it will fill these shelves and stuff. It'll be really cool. I did subtract that from the money. I did have to cheat money to fix the landscaping because there were several times where I tried to flatten and I ended up making a giant plateau and it was a disaster. So I just cut all that footage out. I did keep track of how much our buildings cost us, and I made sure to subtract that from our 64,347. And it came out to almost exactly 19,000, so I just gave us 19,000, and we've already lost $1 due to operating costs, so that's fine. Anyway, we have new equipment to play with. I hope you don't mind me using super speed to run. That's how excited I am. So, we can use Follow Me with Courseplay, and I will move all of our equipment to our new shed. We might actually have to buy another shed. In fact, why don't we have the money. We are going to need that extra storage space. So let me just go ahead and buy an extra shed here. It's hard because it smooths in ways that I don't expect it to. Alright, we're going to have to just call that good for now. Okay. Anyway, back to our tractor modification. Shouldn't actually cost us anything because we already have the part in storage. There we go. Now the one downside to these mowers from the Alpine pack, as opposed to the mowers in the base game, is that you cannot attach them together and pull a windrower behind. So we are going to have to use the Follow Me mod, which is totally fine. It's a fantastic mod that I enjoy using. Just kind of push that windrower out of the way for a second. Also, I hope that the volume is okay. Unfortunately, I have to record where my voice and the game volume is on the same track, or else my video editing software won't pick it up. And I noticed in my last couple of videos the in-game sound was super quiet, so I turned it up, but now I'm worried that my voice is going to be overtaken by the in-game audio, which is not the desired outcome. We will talk about fire stuff, guys. I just want to get our follow me set up and get to actually doing the field work. Yeah, because we've already been recording I've been recording for 40 minutes, and I don't have that much time today. So, let's get going. And of course, with the follow me mod with the contractor mod, you can't get out of the vehicle after you set follow me. You can't get your contractor out of the vehicle after you set follow me. So let's go ahead. And oh, of course we need to actually dismiss and then unfold and lower the rake. There we go. Oh, and I didn't tell her to follow again. There we go. Now we're truly ready to get to mowing. Yeah, we lost a lot of grass by doing the landscaping like that, but honestly, we're still going to get plenty off of here. And this is just to clear the area for us to make our own, like, proper field on here anyway, so I'm not that worried about it. As same way that I'm not really worried about it if we don't do a perfect job with mowing. I just want to avoid hitting the property that we don't actually own. Come on, why did this grass not cut? I would appreciate it if that grass would cut, please. Okay, that grass doesn't want to cut, and it doesn't want to be cut. Interesting. So yeah, let's talk about fire stuff. I was going to tell a fire story, but then... So this is actually my second time recording this video, because the first time I started to tell my fire story and I just went off on tangents and tangents and tangents, and it wasn't very good. So I decided to re-record, and I'm kind of glad I did, because that area turned out better than it did last time. Anyway, so instead of a direct fire story, I thought we would just kind of talk about some fire service stuff, because a lot of media gets things wrong, shocker, such as like backdrafts and flashovers, and like what exactly causes those conditions is what I want to talk about today. So the first thing to understand about fire is that it operates with what we call the fire triangle. That describes the conditions necessary to have a fire. So each corner of the triangle represents an element that needs to be present for fire to occur. And in fact, we're calling it the fire tetrahedron now, because there's a fourth element. But a lot of fire triangles just represent that fourth element in the center. So I still call it the fire triangle for simplicity. And those main three elements are heat, oxygen, fuel, and then the fourth element is an ignition source, such as a spark. And if any of those are not present, the fire either will not start, or, except for the ignition source, if any of them are taken out, the fire will go out. So the way that water puts out fire is that it cools the fuel to below its burning temperature. So then the fire goes out, because now the water has cooled the fuel. So that's the basics of the fire triangle, and you can understand a backdraft and a flashover by how the fire triangle operates. So a backdraft is different from a flashover, in that a backdraft is when the fire has burned up all of the oxygen in the fire room, and it's but the heat and the fuel are still there. So the fire has gone out, and but everything else is still there. So you open the door to the room, and you get this fireball that just shoots out because everything just like reignites at once, because all of a sudden you've introduced oxygen back to the equation. So the heat follows that oxygen like back out of the room, like where it's coming from. It's called like a flow path. So that's a backdraft, and you can identify a backdraft in a lot of ways. The fire will actually sound like it's breathing. So that's why you'll hear a lot of firefighters say like firefighter is almost like a living thing, because once it's starved, the house or the room, you'll like see the smoke pushing in and out of like the cracks around the doors and stuff like that. And that comes with like associated groans and like sounds of air whooshing and stuff like that. And it's like the house is breathing. And this differs from a flashover because a flashover occurs when the heat part of the fire triangle just increases exponentially. So smoke as a byproduct of fire is actually material that has not burned yet. It's like small particulate that has not reached its ignition temperature, and it's floating through the air. If you had a complete combustion of a substance, such as like propane, you get no smoke. When you burn something and you get smoke from it, that means the combustion is incomplete. So what happens in a flashover is the heat of that room gets so intense, it basically lights the smoke on fire. Like it completes the combustion of that smoke, and usually the heat required for that is so high that everything else in the room just spontaneously catches on fire at the exact same time. And that's why flashover events are so rarely survivable, is because all of a sudden you're just caught in hell, basically. Literally everything is on fire. So yeah, that's the difference between a backdraft and a flashover. And a lot of times you'll see media such as like movies calling a backdraft a flashover, or a flashover a backdraft. I think Chicago Fire is pretty notorious for that. I've watched one episode of Chicago Fire and could not watch any more. Same with that show 911. I think the very first episode, they showed a Proby firefighter taking the truck out to get laid, like by himself. First of all, driving the truck by himself. Second of all, driving it to a girl's house. Third of all, like not on a call. Third of all, operating the ladder by himself to get up to a girl's bedroom, and then not getting fired for it. Like, I could not. I saw that and I just turned it off. I was like, I can't watch this show. It's awful. Anyway. Well, we still got a lot of field work to do, so I guess maybe I'll tell the fire story that I was going to tell initially, which is the story of my first house fire. Now, I shouldn't say my first house fire. The first time that I got to put water on a fire in a home, because it was actually a room and contents fire. Now, a room and contents fire, as the name suggests, is just a fire where only the fire room and the stuff inside it is on fire. It hasn't spread to the rest of the house. The house is not fully involved. Or it doesn't have to be a house. It can be any structure. In this case, this was a garage room and contents fire. An attached garage. The homeowner had opened their garage door into their home and saw smoke in the garage. So they did the smart thing. They closed the garage door and evacuated the house. And that probably saved her house, because it cut off the oxygen to the fire. So and it stopped the fire from spreading to the rest of her house as quickly. Now, eventually it would if the fire department didn't show up, but we got there relatively quickly. She told us what was going on, so we actually just opened her garage door, and like kind of stood back in case of a backdraft and put water on it. It ended up just being like one corner of the garage that was involved, so that was very good. Her car was savable, probably smelled smoky. Didn't have a lot of damage to the car, thankfully. At least nothing that a body shop wouldn't be able to fix, like nothing mechanically super wrong with the car. And I guess what they had done was they had spilled some oil and had soaked up the oil with some rags and then just threw the rags in the dirty clothes bin, which can actually cause spontaneous combustion because of the off-gassing of the oil from the rags. Now, this is one area that's super fuzzy to me. I'm not exactly sure how that would cause spontaneous combustion, because there is, as far as I know, there's no ignition source there. But yeah, her oily rags caused the fire. We got back to the station, and so it was overall a good outcome. It was minimal property loss, nobody got hurt, and I got to flow water in a structure for the first time. Now we get back to the station, and we're back at the station for literally like 5 minutes. If you've watched my previous video, you know that I have said that for fire calls, we rely on people to come in from home. We staff our station for EMS calls, and then we rely on people who are off duty to come in for fire calls. So it was before anybody had even gone home. We got another fire tone, this time for a car fire. So we get up to the car fire, and everybody's out of the car, thankfully, but the car is just cooking. It's completely, fully involved. We did get the fire out, but the car ended up being a total loss, unfortunately. But you know, at least nobody got hurt in it. Thankfully, they were able to get out of the car once they saw, I guess, smoke was coming from the hood, and quickly spread into the cabin of the car, which because of our fast response time, I'm surprised the car was fully involved by the time we got there. Just because there is a firewall in between the engine compartment and the cabin of the car, and that's supposed to give the occupants time to get out, and a lot of times the fire department can't save your car, but they can save the belongings if they get there fast enough, like in the cabin. There was no saving anything out of this car, unfortunately, so I'm kind of surprised that it went so fast. But yeah, that's the fire stories that I have for you guys today. I hope you learned something, and hope you found it at least a little bit entertaining. I think there's still quite a lot of mowing to do here, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and time-lapse the rest. And I will see you guys on the other side of the time-lapse. Alright guys, here is the last load of grass off of this field. And you see, I really don't think we could get like anything else in this bunker after this load here. That's sure is something else. Hopefully we can get this in there. Just shy of 300,000 liters. I'm hoping 300,000 isn't like the literal max that this thing can hold. Nope. Alright, so it's a good thing we got the double silo, because once we have this fertilized and limed and plowed and stuff like that, it's going to fertilized, limed, and plowed. We're gonna need that extra room. Alright, let's get this trailer parked up in our shed. We are done with it for now. And then we're actually going to take this tractor and go grab the front loader attachment. See if we can't clean up this silo at all. Man, that was a lot of work. That is, I probably was working on that field for 2 hours, even with the cut in the time lapse. It was probably a total of 2 hours of work. If you hear any scratching and stuff in the background, I do apologize. My dog is right under my desk, and she is demolishing her favorite toy. But, you know, dogs will be dogs. Alright. Here's the front loader attachment. Come on. Thank you. And while we're here, we might as well bring a piece of equipment over to the new storage area. So I was thinking about how to get this field plowed, because any implement that our tractors can pull is, let's just say it's not going to be up to the job. I was thinking we go back to Farmer Joe's and see if he will allow us to borrow. He has an old Case Steiger and a 6-foot plow. Maybe he would let us pay him and just let us borrow that equipment to create our new field. We definitely can't afford to own that equipment ourselves yet. Oops. But maybe he would let us borrow. The next thing that I want to buy for the farm is, I know of another farmer, not Farmer Joe, another farmer on the map who has an old Ford semi-truck and trailer that he's willing to sell to us for a reasonable price. So it's not the biggest semi-trailer in the world, but it's certainly bigger than anything that we have now, and it'll make transporting all this silage way more bearable than it currently would be. Can you imagine just using our little tractor-pulled tipper to transport all of this silage to the sell point? Oh man, that would be a nightmare. And take even longer than it took to pull it off the field. So what I think I'm going to do to prevent anything spilling out after I get it all in there is compact what needs compacted again. And then it's a little bit cheesy, but I think I'll blanket the silo when the tractor is still on it, because then nothing should spill out as I bring the tractor down. If I try to bring the tractor down before I blanket the silo, I'm afraid it's just going to undo all the scoop work that I'm doing now. And it might be a little bit unrealistic, but I hate having to repeat work. I also thought about just getting another one of these case tractors that we have, but I mean, we already have the most powerful one, and it's starting to get a little small for the farm. I also thought about the default Case 7200 Pro tractor, which is like the first tractor in the medium category. By the time you see this video, I probably will have already made my decision. But I am still interested to know what your favorite brands of tractors are. And let me know, just like in general, what you want to see on the farm. Do you want to see Massey Ferguson? Do you want to see Kloss? Do you want to see New Holland, John Deere, Challenger? You know, that kind of stuff. Because Fendt or Agco in general. Because yes, this is an American map, but you can find pretty much any brand in the United States. It just depends on where you are. In my area, I've seen Deutz-Fahr, which is a predominantly German and European brand. Not something you would, see often in the United States, but you could still see in the United States. So yeah, I'm not too fussed about if this is a European tractor or an American tractor, or harvester or implement or whatever. I would say I would probably try to keep like US styles. So like the John Deere mod I'm looking at, it can have configurations for either US or EU configurations. I'll still pick US configurations where applicable. I just, like, if there's no option and it's a tractor I want, then I'll take it regardless if it's configured right or not. Because at the end of the day, it is still a game, and we can still play with whatever we want, even though we're trying to make it, semi-realistic with seasons and, using these, starting with these small tractors. Oh, awesome. All right. Here we go. We can blanket the silo with 322,000 liters of grass in it. Oh, and we still missed some. That's unfortunate. This will probably just erase itself as it rains, which is fine. I thought that would have been like close enough to being in there to count, but I guess not. Well, guys, that's all I have for you for this episode. You can see it is 6:30 in the evening, so Nick and Sarah here have put in a long day's work. Between episodes, I'm probably going to look for a decorative mod to put a fence around the edge of our cliff. I might smooth out the terrain some more. And I'm going to run just a handful of small contracts so I can get the money for the semi-truck and trailer that I want to buy. That, again, it's not going to be big. There's still, we're not getting like end game equipment already. This is going to be a very small, basic truck. It's probably not even going to be able to outpull our pickup trucks. It's just going to be able to pull a like a grain trailer instead of a gooseneck. Alright, we'll get this. Oh, and I'm also going to move all the equipment to this new shed. So yeah, guys, this is our new farmyard. Until next time, guys, I'm a Shadowbox, and I will see you next day. Have a good one.